Among all the free folk who wander the mists and glimmerings of Irish folklore, there are few as feared as the Fir Gorta. Their name means the hungry man. This fairy is not to be confused with the Fir Gortach, or hungry grass, which is a separate but related thing. The Fir Gortach is a patch of land accursed by the Sheath, covered in grass that would cause anyone who stepped on it to starve to death no matter how much they ate. Some say the Fir Gorta rises from these patches of grass when inhuman acts and the desecration of sacred places become common, although others believe that he was just a wandering spirit of somebody who had starved to death near to a sheath hill.
Shit.
Yeah.
So just because if you're near it,
if you step on the grass, you will be Marvin. And I don't know if it's like only when you're on the grass, or like even if you like leave the grass. I feel like we should do an episode on just the Fir Gortach.
The grass?
One of the day, yeah, just the grass.
But how deep is it? Is it just like it's grass makes you hungry? That's it.
Well, I'm gonna talk about a tiny bit, but then we're gonna I'll look into it more and see if there's anything there.
Yeah. Huh.
Okay. Some ways to protect from the grass. You could keep. Oh, how do you think you could protect from the grass?
Not walk on it.
Would you know?
I don't know. Well, if people were,
if I walk on it, if I step on the grass, I'm gonna die. I don't know if it's immediate or whatever. I'm gonna die. I can't put up a sign.
Are you?
If hungry? I saw someone dying on the grass, I'd be like, "What are you dying of?" And he's like, "Starve."
Am I? Oh, starve.
Starve.
Not even starving. What are you dying of? Starve.
Starve. I'll write a sign. Starve.
Like, what is the grass hungry or you're hungry, or does
you become hungry if you step on the grass?
So, I don't know. Just throw breadcrumbs around. Just throw.
That's
like
what
a sandwich.
You think.
Just throw a salad or something.
That's feeding. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Give a tracker bar.
But I had something to say. Something about the grass. Yeah.
That's a change of pace then.
That's a bit change. Yeah. Something to say. If I were to take some of the dirt.
Yeah.
If I touch it though, I would starve.
Do you know what though? In this day and age, that'd just be the Irish Ozempic. People would be like, "It makes you hungry, really?" Just calling up, taking it, putting it in the pocket.
But that's the thing. That's what I was gonna say. If I saw a sign and it was like, "If you step on this grass, you're gonna starve and die,"
not calorie deficit for me no more.
I wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, "Yeah."
Wait, starving means like you're just hungry.
You're gonna be really, really hungry, and then you're gonna die.
So no, is it like one of those things like a tapeworm situation where you lose weight, or
you
is
would
it like
lose weight, and I think it'd be very, very quick.
So nothing satiates you.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I thought it was like a thing where you like ate yourself to death.
Do what?
Like you ate yourself to death.
I mean, maybe. Because you're starving.
That's what I thought it was.
So like you could
if you can't satiate, you just keep eating it.
Maybe someone tries to eat themselves.
Maybe. This is kind of like a Wendigo. This is like a Wendigo. What was it? It starts when you're like starving, and if you eat human flesh,
you become a Wendigo.
And then you become a Wendigo, and then we'll do an episode on that. Okay. You become a Wendigo, and then your appetite will never be satiated unless you eat human flesh.
That's also kind of like we did the Dark Dua, who like no matter how many men she sucks the face off, or
I thought sorry.
That's crazy. You said she's just never satiated. That's a lot of vampires as well.
Yeah, I think that's the part of the course.
Yeah. Okay, so ways to protect yourself from the grass. You can keep a crust of bread in your pocket.
Struggling like a poor farmer.
Or you can sprinkle crumbs of oaten bread over the hungry grass. You can also salt and burn the field, and then that's it, gone for good. So like it won't grow back.
That's a shy fucking. I don't know.
So what I'm hearing is Paddington Bear would be okay.
Yeah,
because he's got his marmalade sandwich under his hat.
Yeah, Paddington would be fine. But he was going to be fine anyway.
Paddington would be fine against most Irish mythology. Would he? Oh, we should do that. Just the Paddington test. Every episode. Would Paddington Bear survive though?
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking, would he have survived the last ones? The dinosaur, maybe no.
No, probably not.
Poor guy. I would have saved him though.
Well, he's not a teddy bear, isn't he? No, he's like I'm thinking of Winnie the Pooh.
He's just a bear who came to London.
He's just a little guy. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think the protection from the hungry man is, the Fir Gorta?
opposite of food. Like, it's just like,
But he's starving.
yeah, but like if I have food, that's my lizard.
No, it's scary sound effect. It's the Fir Gorta.
Bro, he's unsatiable. Like he can't fucking like you can't feed him. He's just like a black hole of food, and he won't eat salad. He refuses.
Yeah. So what do you think Fir Gorta? Maybe. Yeah, you're saying what's the opposite of food though? Nothing. So you're fine.
Liquid lunch.
Then there would be no problem.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably food again. Just bring food.
Just bring food. What food would you give the Fir Gorta, who's starving and can't hasn't eaten? Okay, that would go right to his system. He hasn't. Well, I don't know how edibles work. I'm thinking of drinking.
Yeah. Just give him an edible. Then he gets even worse.
If I could feed. Oh, but then okay.
Well, I'm gone by the time
we haven't even covered what he does. What's so scary about him? We just know he's starving, man.
He's just hungry. Like so far, I don't think I've listened purposefully. I knew you were writing this episode, so I didn't look into it.
If I could feed the hungry man, the starving man, I would feed him a chicken fillet roll, and then he would never be.
Oh, you're so Irish.
No,
chicken fillet roll.
Okay, the real protection from the hungry man is there is no protection from the hungry man.
So why the fuck would you set it up so that there was?
If one of these creatures came to your door asking for food, you'd have to give it to him.
You gotta do it.
Wait. And you might know.
I'm not. If someone knocks on my door and I was like, have you got food? I'm probably not gonna be like, no. Yeah,
you have to give it to him. His appearance, he has like a greenish hue to his skin. He has a begging bowl.
No, sorry, I'm thinking of, the episode of Mr. Burns as the alien.
That actually terrified me as a kid.
That was scary. That was the X-Files crossover.
He would have a begging bowl which would fall from his fingers because he was too weak to lift it, and he'd be dressed in rags with long dirty fingernails.
Okay.
Well, long fingers and dirty nails.
Salad fingers.
He was very feared, but if you fed him, he would be generous. So there is kind of a way to protect from him. So yeah, so he would be generous to you if you fed him.
Bro, that's just like me.
But if you mocked him or attacked him, bad things would happen. He would retaliate without mercy.
Who the fuck is attacking him? Little skinny chap.
Yeah, but like I don't know. People are
you bros.
Problematic.
Take 15 of us.
Coursing antagonists with bad luck and hunger to the end of their days. So if you were like, no, give us some food, no, you would starve.
Nowadays it'd be like you get a smack of an e-scooter and be like, what the fuck are you doing to me, way? Me and me 15 fucking fellas are gonna jump you. E-scooters piss me off, bro. And you know what? They're great. They're great crack.
E-scooters?
No, I've never. I think I don't
know. Kings have been made into paupers and beggars into princes at his hand. So that's how powerful he is.
Attila's been a real problem right now.
Despite the individual blessings or curses that he might bestow, he is a harbinger of famine, disaster and despair. So he might be nice to you, but overall him being there is bad energy. You don't want that.
It's kind of like the English in that era, they're there.
Yeah,
they're there. If you're nice,
they
to
might
them,
be nice.
If
to
you're
you,
not, if you're nice to them, in other words, if you're like, yeah, you colonize us, they'll be like, here's some money and whatever.
I'm not the happiest to see the Fir Gorta, even though he might be nice to me.
Yeah,
because I gave him.
This is like. Have you ever heard that book? I think it's a troop.
No.
It's basically like these Boy Scouts around an island. It's a good book. I think Nick Quaro. It's basically this. But I think it's a parasite or something.
Yeah. And
like it just like dwindles you down and you eat anything. It's kind of scary premise. To just be, I don't know.
Starving,
but it's also like, because I would imagine that if you're that hungry you just start eating anything. Yeah.
You do hear some like messed up stories about the famine and all that. All stories about the famine are messed up.
Yeah. Just
before the Great Famine, it said he came forth from a battle of furies which took place over Knockma Hill. The Fir Gorta is a zombie-like creature from Irish mythology. These creatures were said to be the corpses. Yeah, so some people said they were the corpses of neglected people who had risen from their grave.
Yeah, I thought, because that's what I thought it was.
So also kind of like, I don't know, neglected in like no one has been near their grave, or I think they were like
Neglected,
starving.
I think maybe starved to death.
Or,
It's
like,
like neglected.
died
In
alone.
other words, like it could be.
Yeah, I kind of imagine it as like multiple. There's not like one singular for Gorta.
Yeah, I thought it was like a troop. Like I
Yeah.
imagine, you know, the
Like you
statues
could
they have
become a
for the famine,
Gorta.
like the famine
Yeah,
statues.
that's actually what I imagine. Those ones that they have.
That's what I imagine it being, because I always thought it was just famine victims. Victims of famine or something.
Unlike zombies, they wouldn't feast on the flesh of those who crossed their paths. They would wander areas of the country searching for help.
That's kind of sad.
They've been identified by their decaying flesh, thin, skeletal-like features, and ragged attire. They were said to seek anything that might help satisfy their hunger.
Yeah, this is what I was saying. Like they just eat whatever.
One of the big, like, beliefs behind the Fir Gorta is that they were a metaphor for the Irish potato famine.
Yeah.
The famine lasted from 1845 to 1852 and is usually cited as the darkest period in Irish history.
Yeah, I think we're still recovering from that, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
Technically, on a technicality, because we had our population.
Yeah, no, it was
like,
huge, and then that like made
And
it
then
major hit.
That like we're like a quarter of what, and we're still recovering.
The famine resulted in about 1 million deaths from starvation and malnutrition.
And that's only the documented ones, because some of them weren't documented.
Yeah.
A lot of them, the majority weren't documented. They were actually reckoning about. There was one chap said about 4 or 5 million.
Due to the huge death numbers, there are lots of mass famine graves in Ireland, many of which are unmarked.
Yeah.
Many of these mass burial sites fail to receive a proper blessing from a priest. It is said that the Fir Gorta are the bodies of those who have awoken from these unblessed graves, wandering the land trying to satisfy their hunger.
Yeah.
A lot of the Fir Gorta, it's very like, I find it very sad and very like...
It is a sad yoke.
Even just explaining like, oh yeah, there's a starving man who like asks
He's starving
for
with that,
food.
he's just looking for food.
Yeah, it's...
And he's kind of coerced to wander because he's trotted on a piece of land that he didn't know any better with. Part of me wonders if the Fir Gorta, right, if it's two separate entities, but this like you're saying is the group that were kind of buried from the famine. If their spirits are kind of like lumped in with it because they're like, this is what it's most like. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe that's this group of people are actually just wandering spirits, you know, that died in pain and hungry and, you know, cold, and they're wandering, and the next thing they can kind of relate them to is the Fir Gorta. So they're kind of like in a sad way, they became the Fir Gorta, and then in the afterlife, like they're kind of frozen images.
So Fir Gorta are skeletal creatures, skin and bone, dressed in rags hanging off their frail bodies.
Yeah.
They're so frail that their long thin arms struggle to carry the cup of alms they bring around the lands with them. Their bodies are so decomposed they have no flesh on their cheeks, and the remains of their greyish green skin are so rotted that it falls off their bone as they wander the lands. Though they look like zombies, they are in fact fairy creatures and are said to bless those that help them with good fortune.
Yeah.
If you're selfish enough to ignore the pleas of the Fir Gorta, you will be cursed with poor fortune, famine and eternal hunger. Despite their frail appearance, the Fir Gorta can be strong if provoked and quick to attack if they are angered.
Yeah.
They are usually said to wander rural areas of Ireland, mainly like vacant hillsides.
Yeah.
A person should give them food or money
A person
Okay. Should give them food or money to buy food if they want to please them.
If I was starving and someone handed me money,
yeah, to
unless
buy
you
food.
if you didn't have any
No,
more
but it's
food
somewhat
on-
like a homeless person.
No, yeah, but I'm saying like if you were starving and you're like literally I need food like right now, and they have food or they have money,
Yeah.
and you were given money, like,
Yeah, but I assume the
I'd
money
give both.
is I assume the money is if you don't have the food at the minute.
yeah, well, no, I don't know.
The famine has many names. The Irish Grey Hunger, the Grey Famine, the Irish Potato Famine. But it doesn't really matter which you use because they're all very simplistic and they don't outline the despair, death and devastation that Ireland had to endure for almost a decade at the hands of British tyranny.
Yeah.
Class discrimination, religious intolerance, slave labour, deliberate starvation and forced exile, all under the dark skies of harsh winter after harsh winter. Penal laws introduced under British rule meant that parliamentary representatives were primarily British nationals and their male descendants who had been granted landed estates in Ireland. Catholics who had property was confiscated off of the...
Yeah, they'd have property kind of taken off them.
Yeah, I'm just like, am I even making sense?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
And they were forbidden from owning or leasing land or even voting.
Yeah.
Penal law was largely repealed before 1830. However, the wheels of law, justice and reform grind slowly. For now, Irish Catholics had to settle for leasing land back from Anglo landowners. So they, like, there was progress, but, like, they still had to...
Buy it back.
They had to lease it even. It wasn't even really properly. Yeah, they had to rent it from...
Rent your own land. It's a lot of similar shit that kind of happened with the Native Americans and stuff.
The potato was only introduced to Ireland in the 18th century, but soon became a food staple due to it being hardy enough to survive Irish weather, and it was a cheap product that went far. And it was a cheap product far. That was it stretched far,
you
and it
put
was
in
like
anything,
yeah.
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
Potato crops became infested with an airborne fungus called Phytophthora.
The blight, isn't it?
Infestans. What?
That's basically like that was the kind of common. Say it again. You alright there, lad?
It got me.
It got me.
Potato crops became infested with an airborne fungus called Phytophthora infestans, also known as the potato blight. It is believed that this fungus, that seemed to originate on merchant ships between North America and Britain, actually carried...
Ships.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Actually carried on the wind across the Irish Sea and began destroying the potato crops of Dublin and the surrounding counties before it became a countrywide disaster.
Yeah.
Corn laws were still in existence, which fixed an artificially high tariff on imports to protect British corn prices and keep them in control of the market. So we would be taxed.
Yeah.
And we'd have, yeah. A petition was put forward for Queen Victoria to repeal the high tax, which did happen, but it was way after, so it was far too late. This, combined with the continued high level of produce continuing to be exported out of Ireland by British landowners and merchants, meant one thing: a food shortage of catastrophic proportion that brought a nation to its knees.
Yeah.
So we were making food.
Yeah, well,
just wasn't for us.
A lot of people kind of.
Yeah, they're like, you only had potatoes.
You only have potatoes. No, we're revered for like our cattle, our sheep. There's like an old story from like the Romans when they first came here to kind of trade. They were like fascinated with our cows and stuff because of how big they were and plump.
Yeah.
They like paid like top prices to bring it home, and then it dwindled because our grass is like vitamin rich. And
even like the animals suffered over the famine as well.
Yeah,
like,
because you know we had to encroach and then slaughter more and stuff. So. If you're hearing scratching in the background, that's my lizard. He's starved for attention right now, so not starved for attention, but it's been 5 minutes, so he thinks he's starved for attention.
So this is about like Charles Trevelyan, is that right?
Yeah.
And the Black 47. So attempts at temporary relief measures were mismanaged, and local committees would be unruly and incapable of the organisation required to put these measures in place successfully. When it was believed that things couldn't really get any worse, then came one of the most hated men in Irish history, Charles Trevelyan.
Yeah, Trevelyan.
Trevelyan was an autocratic numbers and red tape man, a civil servant with no compassion, empathy or connection to the Irish people he was tasked to assist. His methods... I actually kind of went a little crazy this week. His methods at creating employment, bringing food to the table and restarting the Irish economy were drawn out, complicated and ultimately a complete failure. Trevelyan and the British government had been operating on the principle that the blight would be short-lived and nature would run its course. The first year of the potato blight and food shortages was dire, but the Irish kept going with a small import of corn, selling off the little livestock they had and borrowing money from loan sharks. This was the beginning of the horror at the hands of Charles Trevelyan.
Yeah, he's a prick. Like his most iconic quote, literally, and I was just thinking of this, he literally blames. Yeah, basically. Like the judgment of God sent the calamity to teach the Irish a lesson is one of his quotes. You know, this is the one who was sent to help us. The real evil is not the physical evil of the famine. You know, it's not really people dying.
Yeah.
It's actually the moral evil, because of how selfish, perverse and turbulent the characters of the Irish people are.
Yeah.
So we're selfish for starving to death.
What is it that was said during COVID where it's like, necessary?
Yeah, people are gonna die, but that's also...
That was him. He was like, it's kind of necessary?
No, inevitable.
It's kind of inevitable.
Yeah, that's your one out of...
People are gonna die, but...
People are gonna die, but also inevitable.
Corn prices aren't gonna change, though. Don't worry about that.
The corn prices are gonna...
British Prime Minister Robert Peel had been supplying Ireland with corn imports. However, following his resignation in 1846, Trevelyan took complete control and cut off Ireland from further imports, as he didn't want the Irish relying on British support.
Yeah. Oh. Well, you know, the Irish wouldn't need English support if you weren't so fucking heavy in colonising us.
Instead of sending food when social systems and infrastructure failed, Trevelyan sent soldiers to try and instill order.
To this day, even in history books, you're taught like English kind of colonisation was only a part of what caused the famine, and you're like, no, I'd say it's majority of what caused it. And also the imports, if they were more careful with the importation of the potato blight. Yeah,
because it was on.
They sent us. There's theories that they sent us fucked up potatoes on.
Yeah.
Like on kind of on purpose. Listen, I don't have that against the English people. Your government, though, scumbags.
When one of the most brutal winters hit Ireland, Trevelyan forced 500,000 Irish out into the blizzards to build roads. Men, women, children, barely clothed, starving, freezing, many would drop dead where they stood. 1847 became known as Black 47, the worst year of the Great Hunger. The population was emaciated. The population was emaciated, still desperately trying to work on Trevelyan's enterprises for almost no wages or food. Yeah. Children went without any sustenance at all, as the parents needed to eat in order to work.
So what would happen? But even at the time as well, what would happen is, and I know we're going off topic. It seems like we're going off topic.
It'll come back around. And it is very important with the Fir Gorta.
You have to like kind of highlight it. You have to look at that part of history, and especially Irish history. It's such an important and kind of integral part of it. Of the suffering. But at the time, a lot of people opted rather than take money, would take food, because like that you needed food to work. And also their children were starving to death, but at the same time you couldn't pay your housing. And at the time,
it was all owned
taxes.
By the British.
At the time you were leasing it, and then there was extra taxes added. So there was window taxes added. There was all these different dumb taxes, like you get taxed X amount for having the amount of windows and stuff you have. So a lot of houses would board up the windows, and that would cause vitamin D deficiency in the children who couldn't leave the house because it's freezing, they've no clothes. They'd also, if you couldn't pay your tax, they'd cave the roof in on top of you. They'd get boulders and stuff
and set fires and stuff.
They'd set fire to it, and then they'd turn your property into pig farms. So
not great.
Not great, but only partly our fault is the point. Not major. That's a chance at the door.
Disease ravished the land, most dying from diseases such as typhus, dysentery and black fever rather than the malnutrition.
Yeah, well, I think it's rare for people to die just because of that. It's the disease that malnutrition
because they get sick, and then because they are...
Yeah, your immune system, you need to be well built.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to fight it.
Yeah.
The Irish people could not afford to eat. The money wasn't there, and they were dying due to the incompetence and indifference of the British government. Finally, all of Trevelyan's projects were shut down, and soup kitchens and charity were introduced, but too slowly and on too small a scale. 1847 saw the third potato harvest failure. So next we're going to go on to evictions, coffin ships and workhouses.
Yeah.
As time went on, the landowners wanted their land back so they could grow their own crops and graze cattle. Their tenants were unfit for work, unable to grow their own potatoes, and hadn't paid rent in years. As if starvation, slave labour and disease weren't enough, tenants began to be evicted from their homes. So like what you were talking about.
Yeah. Evicted air quote.
Hello.
Chance is making his presence known. Sorry, he's coming in.
What are we talking about today?
The main man of the podcast is here.
Over 500,000 tenants were evicted, with a further 100,000 being forced to emigrate to North America by the landowners with false promises on what would become known as the coffin ships.
Yeah.
Small, barely seaworthy vessels, crammed with skeletal families, broken and ravaged by disease, still hoping for a better life. Many would die on board, their rotten corpses a stark warning of what may come to those watching and breathing in the stench of death. Others would die in makeshift hospitals on arrival. Yeah. They were not welcomed and were received with hostility and fear from the largely Puritan communities of Canada and North America.
Yeah.
So like you could survive the horrible trip on the ocean, starving and like with rats and all like at your feet, and then immediately when you get there you die.
It's also, even when you get over there, you're met with such like kind of...
Yeah, they were very hostile.
Yeah, hostile and stuff. That's a big thing, you know. Signs used to be up, no
blacks, no Irish.
No blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
Yeah.
And you know, America, I think, likes to, you know, claim the Irish.
Yeah, the Irish heritage.
But at the time, the American people were not accepting of the Irish. We worked docks. We used to make money scrapping. They used to make us scrap and stuff for money. You know, the jobs that we got were the worst of the worst, and you know, it still happens today. Migrants and stuff are given the low end of the stick. But then, you know, as the Irish kind of pulled in, the Catholic kind of kicked into them. We spread like rabbits, and now the Irish are their so-called, you know, are actually the poor who, you know, had to work their way to the top. Well, to the top, air quote, to a livable situation. But yeah. Yeah.
Back in Ireland, Trevelyan fought to save his career by making all Irish landowners the scapegoats for the years of horror he inflicted on the Irish people.
Yeah.
The penalties imposed upon them left them bankrupt, and the common man had no wages. So everyone's broke now.
Yeah.
The shops were filled with food at this stage. However, no one could afford to buy them.
Yeah.
So Ireland was in complete financial ruin. The poor law was brought into play. However, claimants had to rescind any bit of land or asset they held over a quarter acre and enter the workhouse in order to receive aid. So you'd have to give up everything and go to a workhouse, which wasn't...
And the workhouses weren't great, you know, disease
not
and stuff.
Great. Workhouses were already crammed tight with widows and children who, if Trevelyan had his way, would be out on the streets to make way for those fit to work.
Yeah, that was his big thing as well, is you're greedy if you're not able to work.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of the case they were willing to work, it's just physically you can't.
So the overflow were placed into outbuildings with no sanitation or heat during another harsh winter.
Yeah.
Soon even these were full, and entire families desperate for a roof and a crumb were forced to live in makeshift camps anywhere they could find. Before long, the workhouses and unions were riddled with debt. Sorry, that sounded like death. I just realised I said it weird. Debt
is always...
And unable to keep up with the supply and demand. As a result, no further aid from Britain was forthcoming due to non-payment of taxes. So Britain was like, can't help you anymore, as if they did. Instead of sending help, the British government sent more and more soldiers to control the masses. Whispers of rebellion were rife through the evolution of the young Irelanders who sought to fight back against repression. However, the British put every effort into suppressing their efforts with new laws of internment and exile to Botany Bay, as well as the introduction of spies in every major city. So the cities were living in fear and struggling to keep food on the table, and rural Ireland was a ghost nation. Houses abandoned, families gone, fields empty.
It still is kind of... It is still kind of like that.
Yeah, you can still see that.
We're still flocked around cities.
The workhouses were rife with disease, residents living and sleeping in their own filth, no segregation, everyone pushed in together.
And pests and stuff.
The violent, the mentally ill and the infirm together with families and small infants. Food minimal, All were in rags, haunted, hollow, sunken eyes, searching for a glimmer of hope long gone through ravaged features.
Yeah.
And now back to the Fir Gorta. Fine, we're going back.
Yeah.
Death was the common denominator, and the dead were tossed in the carts, one on top of the other, and tipped into the makeshift graves without so much as a blessing. Souls condemned to purgatory. That was
And
what
they're
they
Catholic,
believed.
yeah.
They're all. They would have mainly been Catholic.
The majority would have been Catholic, because I think we were Catholic.
The complete majority, like, yeah, to be like a tiny percent that wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And that would have been a big deal, not being able to have a blessed grave.
Well, it is.
It is a big deal, and even like an unmarked. The whole concept of having a mass grave
as well.
A mass grave with like no name, like you wouldn't even know who.
Yeah, it's also a little care.
And
also
even like
for
nowadays, you
people,
might not even know you're walking on a grave.
No, they found a deposit of it, I think, in Dublin City when they were digging up a road or something like that. It's just anywhere, and it's also a lot of people blame. At the time, you know, the people who were digging the graves were famished as well.
Yeah, they would have also
so
been
digging
starving.
individual graves
yeah.
isn't possible. But then also, a lot of the time they weren't allowed to give the blessing, they weren't allowed to give rites and stuff like that to it, because it was looked down on. I think at that time, I don't know for a fact, but I think a lot of England was Protestant. I think it's Protestant England. I don't know what the majority religion is over there.
Yeah, I think it depends.
I think it depends, but I think at the time, I think Trelawney was or Trelawney or whatever the fuck is. Do you know what? I don't want to learn his name, because I think men like that should be forgotten. The horror should never be forgotten, but they shouldn't be held in regard.
Yeah, so all over Ireland, hundreds of these mass graves appeared. They were also called famine graveyards.
Yeah.
Originally they were unconsecrated, but in later years many have become memorialised and recognised consecrated ground and like
they were
and stuff.
Baptised and re-blessed and stuff.
If they have been found.
It's kind of, it's awful.
Because it could still be said, like, with how many there was.
They weren't marked, they weren't notarized or anything. They were just kind of filled in.
There probably are still lots that are
unnoticed. Probably built on somebody's house, could be on top of a fucking, which is unfortunate.
Some, however, remain buried in the cold, unhallowed ground, forgotten souls crying out for their purgatory to end. Over the top of these burial sites, the grass grew sparsely, and some say it was cursed and it was hungry. So some are saying this is where the hungry grass comes from.
Yeah, because this is what I would believe in terms of, like, because that makes sense, you know.
With the extent and horror of the Great Famine, it isn't surprised to hear a tale born from it.
Yeah.
But the tales of the hungry grass and the hungry man go back even further.
Yeah.
And have more like supernatural origins. Well, the rise of these supernatural creatures, they probably gained popularity because of the Great Hunger. They appear to have been born of ancient ways and a much less human origin.
Yeah.
Most common lore behind the fir Gortach, that's the grass, is that it occurs as a result of fairy magic. Found in fields, it is cursed by the fairies of the unseelie court who use dark powers. Whether as a source of famine or fury, to stand on the hungry grass means death. Slowly you begin to starve and descend into madness. You eat and you eat, but no amount of food will ever fill the void in your stomach. The mind snaps, convincing the poor individual that they are starving to death. Ultimately, mind takes over matter, and the victim just withers away.
Yeah.
So this kind of, the fact that it's like the mind snaps, it's like you're not even starving to death. You just like think you are so badly that you starve to death.
Yeah, it's not like, it's basically your mind is tricking you into thinking you can't.
So you aren't even really.
It's not that you
hungry.
It's
not like you're actually
it's like
starving.
A mental thing.
The fir Gorta or hungry man isn't a man at all, but an ethereal being or fairy. He's associated with the famine for two reasons. The first is his appearance. You know, the skeletal physique, gaunt face, haggard, hollow cheeks and angular bones covered by thinly stretched sallow skin. His emaciated figure a horrific image to behold. His clothing is nothing but tatters and rags, and to all intents and purposes he has the look of the walking dead. The second is that he is known to appear during times of hardship and famine. The fir Gorta can be malevolent or benevolent. Malevolent or benevolent, depending on his mood and the welcome he receives.
Yeah.
So
We've already
kind of been through all this. We're just going over again. He is known to call house to house begging, and if he is treated kindly, he has the ability to bestow good blessings and wealth on those he deems worthy. Of course, those who are unkind will feel his wrath and suffer abject poverty, famine, and ultimately death.
Yeah, so
everyone will.
Yeah, so I think what is suggested even in Irish culture, I think from that is that the famine probably was a course from the Fair Gorta, or even as we were saying earlier in the kind of podcast, he's against the kind of, what's the word, ruining of the
desecration of sacred
stuff. Could that have been you saw the desecration of colonization and stuff like that, and it kind of sparked it. You never know, but that's just kind of like my 2 cents on what it could be. And then it kind of went down the line and it ended up creating more.
Yeah. There are accounts of fairy magic being used to keep humans away from sites of importance to the fairy realm. Free forts and patches of the fair Gortach, the grass, are believed to be traps that activate in the event of tampering, whether deliberate destruction or the accidental crossing of either supernatural creation. So again, like the desecration of...
Yeah, it's very kind of...
Perhaps the very act of defiling the dead of the Grey Hunger with mass burials was enough to trigger the curse on sacred fairyland. Did this in turn cause... This might have caused the lost souls of the famine to become predatory, seeking to drag the living into their hell. So this is saying, like...
Yeah.
They became the Fair Gortach.
Yeah.
The Fair Gorta is a fairy. He is solitary and he has no master. There is no protection from his power. Decimation and despair will awaken him, and his withered skeletal figure will unfurl and point to his next prey. So much of the tragedy of Ireland holds hand with pagan ways, superstition, and the supernatural, even in Christian times.
Yeah.
The Grey Hunger was the worst horror imaginable, so it is little wonder the lore that arose was equally horrific. May these inhuman acts remain in the past, the victims find everlasting peace, and the hunger of the Fair Gorta and Fair Gortach be satiated.
Yeah, it is a very heavy...
It's
a very heavy topic.
Heavy.
I think you need to talk about a lot of these stuff, because our culture, I think with a lot of stories, it's more we put a legend to and a monster to the face of what we're experiencing.
Yeah.
And I know the Fair Gorta is before the famine, but I think it became repopularized during that because of how similar it was. And I think sightings of... I've read stories of sightings of troops of Gorta or whatever, and I would take it as famine victims are, still kind of, unfortunately, I think spirits wander. I think especially if you die in a tragic way, and I think they're kind of hopefully at rest, but because they weren't blessed, they weren't, they still have unfinished business. I hope we find as many of them as we can, and we kind of rechristen them, or what's the word, consecrate the ground and stuff, and bless them. Even not giving a last rites is kind of a big deal in Catholicism. It's just tragic, the whole kind of shit you went through. Babies and stuff were starving, and then at the time we were being mocked. Punch comedy and stuff was happening. They were saying we were committing cannibalism and stuff. And Charles dickhead Trelawney or whatever the fuck his name is. No, do you know what? I genuinely just don't care, because he's the scumbag. And you have to face that at one point. But it's famous. I was looking at it because I was googling what his famous quote was, because we learned it in school, and like multiple come up, and it's just like he fed into that kind of hatred of us at that time as well. But heavy episode, kind of changing from last week's dinosaur.
Yeah, dinosaur, and then it's like, let's talk about the famine.
What's the
song where it's like, I want a minute to talk about the famine?
I don't know.
I wonder if the Fair Gorta, because it's the hungry man, it said that like in times of famine he will appear. I wonder if he will appear again with like the way things are currently going, with like homelessness, with like the housing crisis, with like recession. It
is a scary kind of thought. Housing. It is crazy how we're still being affected to modern day by the famine. When you really think about it, the housing crisis, a lot of people are flocking to cities, because that's where most of the jobs are. you know, but if we were going the way we were going pre-famine, we were kind of spreading across the board.
Yeah.
And it seems like after famine, you know, they were taxing, we kind of just huddled to the major cities where a lot of workhouses and jobs and food and ships were. So, and it also, all of our major cities, which corresponds, are dockyards now.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that the people would be like Belfast, has a big dock, Dublin, Cork and stuff. It is quite tragic.
Yeah.
It feels like that's why they flock there. Yeah, hopefully they're at peace somewhat, you know, in afterlife rather than in life. You know, they got a hard go of it.
Yeah.
I am thankful over history. I think a lot of people hate to look at it, and because it bums
It does
them out,
need to be remembered.
It does. It needs to be remembered.
So it doesn't be repeated.
Yeah, but I think the people that caused it shouldn't be. I think the people that caused it, like Charles, like, you know,
maybe it should be taught in English schools.
It should be taught across the board. You know, we shouldn't be. I think of John Lennon, kind of one of the things that he did. The Wolf Tones kind of. This was years ago. I went to Wolf Tone, and they kind of met up when he wrote that song. If you had to be Irish or something like that. And he kind of only learned about like the Troubles and stuff like that for the first time from the Wolf Tones.
Yeah, a lot of people learn about it
and it's not ignorance from the English people. It's ignorance from the government and the educational systems for doing it. And it's kind of, it instills even in the modern age, them thinking they're at blame. The modern English people thinking they're at blame when it's not. It's you know, it's past.
Yeah.
Histories that did it. Like, you know, you're not. But by being ignorant to it and not being taught about it, a lot of time people become hateful and can become confused and kind of, you know, you still see online.
Yeah. Or
if an Irish person
or just
posts
be
that
like
and you
ignorant.
get English flags, England better and stuff like that. It's like, it's never really a question of which country's better. I think we could stand in prosperity if we just accepted that.
Yeah, you do.
Shit went down in the past.
You see a lot of people like not really understanding the brevity of it. Like I saw, it was like a costume party. Yeah. It was like, oh, dress up as your favourite historical event, and someone went as the Irish famine. Yeah. And they dressed as a potato. It's like and everyone was like, what?
And it is a lack of understanding. People think famine, you know, in third world countries.
Jake Paul or Logan
terrible.
Paul.
It's terrible. What?
Remember, Jake Paul or Logan Paul was like, oh, the potato, they didn't have any potatoes. Yeah,
and that's what a lot of people think it is. It's just, oh, you didn't have any potatoes, oh, boo-hoo. It's not. It's just that was our staple. Yeah. Because we didn't have... It was a staple out of necessity. It was out of necessity because everything else was more expensive and harder to... Took more water and stuff like that, but I don't know. I believe in the Fair Gorta. I believe that the Fair Gorta kind of was one kind of like fairy seed kind of. I think I read that was the Celtic god of hunger as well. Maybe I read. So I think maybe that's kind of like he's the harbinger of it. But ultimately, I think there is spirits that are kind of labeled as Fair Gorta that are famine victims and stuff like that, and that's the, you know, the gaunt kind of. Sometimes they're seen as decaying. I think could just be disease. You know, the Black Plague wasn't. I think it was before. The Black Plague was the 1600s, wasn't it? So this is 1700s, 1800s. Sure. So, you know, we got back to back shafted. There was sicknesses, Spanish flu and stuff like that. But you know, I don't know. So yeah, I think that's all we have for you today. Yeah. What do you think about the Fair Gorta? Do you buy it, or do you think it's just a misinterpretation?
Well, I'm not really sure. I haven't. Yeah, I've mainly just like the possible symbolism and like its connection to the famine.
I think the Irish kind of use storytelling as a way to rationalise it to our culture. So we make up these kind of like monsters and stuff like that to give an image to what we're experiencing. So, you know, even with Banshee and stuff like that, even though I do believe Banshee is a spirit, but she is kind of like an omen of a person passing, and sometimes that can be hard to rationalise, so we kind of put a face on it. But yeah, thanks for listening. Remember to follow us on all our social media accounts. We're close to 1,000 on TikTok. I don't know, TikTok right now is kind of like where we post the most. Yeah. We will focus on other socials in the future. thanks so much for listening. Please do leave a rate and follow us on wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it. I've been Dylan.
I've been Melissa.
For some reason, every week we do that, I think I fucked it up, because one week I did fuck it up.
Yeah, you keep thinking you're going to say it.
I keep thinking I'm Melissa, because I hear you say I'm Melissa after I say it, like in the headset.
I was wrong.
Yeah, so yeah, thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you in the next one.